Hi guys, Matt V's Movies back for another video, and today is a little bit of a different video. I'm going to be talking about the special features of John Wick 4. I'm going to be sort of breaking down each individual documentary, sort of featurette I suppose, on the standard 4K and standard Blu-ray disc. Special features are replicated on both discs. And because I have the 4K Amazon Lenticular exclusive with the bonus disc, which is the third disc, The World of Wick, which is on here, just talk a little bit about that and sort of give you my thoughts on all the featurettes today on the channel. Okay, so the first documentary is Chad and Keanu Through the Wick and Thin. So this is kind of a retrospective featurette looking at both director and star and sort of their journey from the second John Wick film to the fourth one. Director was involved from the second film onwards, and yeah, it's a good documentary, sort of their time together working on this project. Train Like a Killer featurette is all about the choreography and the weapons are used in the film. They talk about the different sort of guns that are used and the nunchucks, and they talk to Keanu Reeves in depth about his fighting style, the way he trains, his commitment to wanting to give as much to the role from a choreography, fighting point of view. It's mentioned that he gives 90% of his time to that area of the film, and like a lot of actors, he goes full in. He wants to bring a really sort of realistic sort of portrayal of the character, so he wants to be involved as much as he can. Obviously stunt doubles have to take over at times, but yeah, it's another great documentary on this release. Making a Killer featurette is all about the production design, and they talk about the continental hotels around the world, and specifically the Continental Osaka Hotel. Did you know that the set that they used was actually an abandoned, disused subway station to recreate the hotel in Osaka? They then move on to the talking about the nightclub scene and all the water, and saying that in John Wick 2 it was very much focused on mirrors. John Wick 3 was kind of there was a scene set in a sort of a glass environment, and this film kind of focuses more on water, and as we see in this sort of scene with the nightclub and all the water's coming down, and they actually found an abandoned warehouse to do this in, with sort of different floors with kind of open areas which this water could flow through. The Psychology of a Killer is a small featurette that largely talks about the relationship between John Wick and the manager of the Osaka hotel, their sort of history. They grew up together, trained together, and yeah, it's sort of an in-depth look at that. Then they move on to the character of KEANU, played by Donnie Yen, and again his relationship between him and John Wick, and very much sort of delving into sort of what makes them tick, and the relationship between each other. Yeah, it's a good short documentary that's not necessarily about psychology, I wouldn't say. It's more about relationships between the characters on this featurette. The next documentary on here is called The Blind Leading the Fight, And this is an in-depth interview with Donnie Yen, and talking to him about the character of Kane. Initially, when he came in, he wasn't that keen on the character being a blind character, because he said he'd done that in Rogue One. But with him talking with the director, and the director sort of showing his vision and as to what he wanted from the character, obviously Donnie Yen came to sort of understanding that, you know, he could build on this character. The look of Donnie Yen, or Kane, in the film, him in a black suit with a thin black tie, was actually modelled on the young Bruce Lee. Very much in the sort of 60s, Bruce had this sort of look of wearing a suit with a thin tie. And yeah, they wanted to represent that in the film. Suit Up, Shoot Up is a small documentary on the wardrobe for each character, talking about sort of the costumes, the designs of them, and it kind of goes through each main character in the film, talking about you know, the design choices for each character. Um, yeah, so very much if you're into sort of the costume side of things on films, this is certainly a good featurette for you. Packing a Punch featurette looks at the different locations for all the fight scenes. They look at the sort of nightclub scene with all the water. Um, the director talks very much like he loves reflections in his films, and he wanted to sort of show fight scenes with, you know, with water backdrop, all this kind of thing. And also he loved the sort of the Japanese setting. So they talk a bit about this. And to finish off the featurette, they talk a little bit about the dogs within the film. Um, each film contains a different dog, and this film, obviously the tracker in the film, he has a German Shepherd, and within the production they use various dogs to sort of be involved in the fight scenes, and there's a little bit of chat about how they managed to achieve this. One Killer Shot is another featurette talking about the scene within the film where it's kind of a shot down view, and they very much wanted to go for like a sort of computer game look to it, where you're looking down and you're actually seeing the bad guys before John Wick does, and them kind of moving through the different rooms. And it also talks about the weaponry used in the sequence. There's the machine gun that actually sort of fires and kind of sets alight the bad guys. So yeah, it's a fun, entertaining featurette. Killing at the Speed of Traffic is another great featurette on the disc. It talks about sort of the driving aspect, you know, the cars that are involved, the great scene around the Arc de Triomphe, where all the cars are going round and John Wick's driving. And actually Keanu Reeves was driving the vehicle that you see in a lot of the scenes. It shows you sort of him doing stunt driving in preparation for the film, and the actual scene where he actually grabs the gun off the floor of the road as driving round is actually Keanu Reeves doing that. So yeah, it's a great documentary, and I'd highly recommend this featurette. A Shot in the Dark is another featurette where they talk about shooting in different locations at night. And essentially the documentary moves on to the scene with the stairway. It's about 450 steps, and there's a lot of choreography around this, and they talk in depth about these sort of fight sequences contained within that staircase. So yeah, it's another great documentary on this disc. So the final featurette on this Blu-ray disc, or 4K, special features are on both. It's called In Honor of the Dead, and this is kind of just an overall sort of featurette, just talking about the whole idea of John Wick 4. The director very much wanted to sort of make it a sort of influence of a Western and sort of kung fu films, and he actually took inspiration from various films, one being The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and also Enter the Dragon, and kind of wanted to sort of merge the two, and takes influences from other films as well. He even sort of mentions Tarantino, that he's he takes inspiration from these different sort of genres and different directors, and tries to meld them all together to create the John Wick world. So it's a good documentary, and highly worth checking out. There are also a couple of theatrical trailers on the special features disc, and there's also some bookmarks, so you can bookmark your favourite scene of the film. So on to the exclusive content. It's called The World of John Wick, and this is a 20-minute documentary, talking about the fourth film, talking with cast and crew a little bit more in depth than sort of these other featurettes on the standard 4K and Blu-ray disc. And I was expecting more of a retrospective looking at previous John Wick films, but this actually focuses on the fourth film, and it goes into quite a bit of detail about the film. So if you're a John Wick fan, I'd highly recommend checking out this featurette. I'm sure it'll probably be available online at some point, but it's a good documentary, highly worth checking out. So if you're new here, thanks for watching the video. Why not check out some of these other videos on my channel? There's a wealth of content for you to enjoy. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Take care and see you in the next one. Bye now.